Welcome to the Delight Your Marriage podcast. You're joining me, Bella Rose, as I dive deep into the beauty, power, and truths about intimacy. Learn not only the practicals, but the heart behind what making love is all about. Delight your marriage.
Hi there. I'm so excited to share with you these rapid fire transformation stories. Super quick, but 5-minute journey stories of each of these men and what God did through the Masculinity Reclaimed program. And just so you know, we are opening enrollment in our next cohort, and that is going away April 4th at midnight Eastern Standard Time. Alrighty, well, I can't wait for you to listen and be inspired and encouraged by all these incredible stories that can happen for you as well, God willing.
My name is James, and I met my wife at church, I guess about 12 years ago, and we dated for a few years, and we've been married this will be, when we have an anniversary, 10 years. In that time, we've created 4, and now actually we're pregnant with our 5th. Yeah, beautiful children. And for a lot, especially from the outside, I think going to church every week, and my dad would come to visit and always compliment us on the domestic bliss we're experiencing. So we had a lot of good things going for us. I had a basketball coach who used to say, every day you get a little bit better or you get a little bit worse. You never stay the same. And so our marriage was not getting better every day. When I discovered Bella's podcast, I was learning a ton. And I found that, my wife was open to it. Like, we actually shared a few things, and I was able to exchange the podcast a little bit. And she learned some things about men. And right from the get-go, honestly, we both got a lot of value just out of your podcast. And I think we binge listened to a ton of episodes. And so, I signed up for the Masculinity Reclaimed course. It feels pretty cool to be able to get that firsthand, conversation. You've got an opportunity to highlight the things that you want to talk about and celebrate and questions, and to be able to get that, that quick one-on-one time throughout the call with the expert is pretty cool. So you can't get that on the podcast. Somewhere midway through the program, there was just a couple of guys on the call who were just sharing some huge milestones. One of them was really similar to what I just said about learning how to be grateful for his wife, and it changed everything. And then another one for a guy who just he hadn't been with his wife in like a couple of years or something. And then they were intimate together, and you could see the guy was just like blown away. And I was like, there was that one call, because there was like a couple of people both having these big, I was getting a little teary eyed. I didn't cry. But
No. Oh, no. Oh, come on.
Felt like it. That was one of the biggest changes, is that I'm more grateful for her, and she feels that, right?
Wow.
If I don't have to change her at all, right? If I change myself, if I learn to be grateful for, oh my gosh, over and over again, we just all the things that I wrote down that I was grateful for over the past however many 12 weeks, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things that I'm grateful for. You have it's very practical approach, but my wife understood that this is, it's not about manipulating and men getting everything that they want and doing none of the work, but it's about how to really be a good husband and love their wife. So my wife, I think she understood that, and she was just happy from where we were and where we needed to get to. She was just happy that I was taking some initiative and getting some support in that. My wife and I it's just really special to have her, love and trust and, initiate the way that, she's been lately. And we're having open conversations about things that, we couldn't even talk about. Every day you get a little bit better, you get a little bit worse. You never stay the same. So we're getting better every day. My biggest hesitation was, can't I just find everything that I need on the podcast? Because there's like a ton of good content out there. And so I spent a lot of time, really trying to piece together everything I need to know to make it work. It really takes it to another level when you have the regimen, right? Here's where we're starting, bite-sized pieces, practice this, and then we're going to introduce that. And each week we're going to meet with the group, for that accountability. It's altogether different than just getting the information off the podcast. And I don't think it's all on the podcast.
We have been married for a little over 28 years. We have 2 adult boys. They are out of the house, so we're empty nesting now. And we went through kind of I wouldn't say a terribly rough patch, but we didn't have the best marriage a number of years ago. We kind of tried to do it ourselves by reading books, listening to podcasts. We went to a number of marriage conferences through our church and other organizations, weekends away type of thing. And we stumbled across your podcast and the whole DYM program. And my wife and I both, we looked into it and we felt that maybe this is something that could help us, take that next step. So going into the program, I would have probably classified our marriage as about a 7 out of 10. We were in a pretty good place. However, it just now having gone through the program, I might amend that a little bit. It might have been more of a 6 to 7 instead of a 7 to 8. And so that's our story. I mean, we've we've had some hard times. We've worked through them. And the MR1 has just been kind of in a way, the final piece of the puzzle, I guess I would say. Through your podcast, you had announced that there was the free masterclass for the women and the men at the same time. So we both took that. She, after the masterclass, she decided to continue on. And at the time I wanted to, and I chose not to be honest. The price kind of scared me away a little bit. And so she decided to go ahead and do it. And it was great for her. She was enjoying it. And then when it came around for the men's class to start up again, we talked about it and said, you know what, it is definitely, we think it's worth it. I mean, it's your marriage. This is the most important assignment that God has given you on earth. And I will say, I am super glad that I did that we made that choice. Definitely worth it. But I will say to any of the guys out there that you think your wife needs to be fixed, she's not going to be fixed until you fix yourself. And a lot of times, honestly, some of the things that I personally thought, hey, I really wish my wife would change this, or I wish she would do this. As I started to look inwardly at myself and how I interacted with her, how I reacted to her, how I communicated or didn't communicate, a lot of those things that I would like her to change started with me and how I approached her, how I loved her well. I have really learned how to speak into her life and to meet her needs. And when that happens, it's like when you water and fertilize and nourish a seed, a flower, it blossoms. And that's what I saw. She really came alive through this, basically through my changes. It wasn't anything that she did, anything that I had to tell her to do. That would actually be the wrong way to approach things. But if you can turn a 7 into a 9 or a 7 into a 10, why not? Why would you not want that? And I will say that it's where I am now compared to 3 months ago. Our marriage is so much more lively. We connect so well. There's a lot of playfulness. We flirt all the time. We're sending each other texts throughout the day. If you have a rough marriage or if you have a marriage that's honestly pretty good, there's always growth to be had. My wife is the most important person on this earth. It's the person that God has brought into my life and given me to care for and to love. And why would I not want to do that the best I can? I mean, us guys, we will go to classes, we will work hard and learn to grow in our careers and to become the best at what we can be at our jobs. Why would we not want to do that with our spouses? And the price, and like I said, the price it kind of concerned me a little bit. It is a commitment, but honestly, I will say having that level of commitment made me, I'm going to be there. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the work. and I'm going to be there every week. And I have a job where I made the commitment to restructure my time and my day so that I could have this time every week open to connect with you and the other guys and to just learn through the process. And if there's any guys out there that were like me or like us in our marriage, where we were just kind of, in a good spot, we were reading books, doing the things, there are still some things that you're going to pick up. It's hard to really figure this out all on your own. I'm so glad that we did this, and it's been awesome. Yeah. I know my wife would say the same thing. We've had many conversations about where we are now compared to where we were, and the future is bright. We love where we are. It's, we're laughing daily, we're flirting daily, we're, cuddling daily, and it's all good. And it was worth every penny, I would say. When you have that solid foundation at home, I feel as a guy, it feels like, there can be all kinds of just it going on, whether it's at work or outside, whatever. Knowing that I have this woman by my side that's going to be supporting me and going to be with me, and we can tackle anything together. I really feel like, I can tackle about anything that's going to come my way. To see the light in her eyes now, and the joy and happiness and the fun and playfulness that she has, that we have as a couple, it's awesome. We're newlyweds again.
So my wife and I have been married for 22 years now. Everything's been great overall, but I think it's, 4 children later, life is busy, got a lot of stuff going on. And I felt like, as great as our marriage is, I just felt like things started to atrophy. And then in the area of intimacy, just not feeling like, there's like unmet expectations and unmet desires, and just feeling like, well, there's not any change there. And I want more, and really not feeling like there's an open door to really discuss it, together, because, my wife might, go on the defensive, just when it's brought up. And so I'm like, oh gosh, well, what do I do now? Like, she doesn't want to go there. She doesn't really want to talk about it. Just, frustration set in. And then obviously I'm trying to pursue and want more, and probably made that more of my focus. She was quick to point out some of the things that I think I learned through the course. Probably should have listened to her the first time, but because I allowed it to affect my attitude, right? You have unmet desires, and you feel discontent, or you feel empty in certain areas. And so you carry that into other parts of your life. Unfortunately, somewhere I stumbled across your podcast, and of course, cleverly titled, podcast messages. Well, that's interesting. I want to hear about that. As I've heard others talk about, like, you start binge watching, going, gosh, that's really good. Wow, I wish my wife could hear this. That would be great. Oh, she's telling me I need to change. Well, let's just put that one on the shelf. But no, so it was one of those things that I think the podcast really helped, at least. And I think the thing that I really appreciated was, it wasn't just some commercialized gimmick type of thing. It was, obviously, you could tell that it was heartfelt and Holy Spirit inspired, because you always came through as wanting to do things in a godly way. So I pursued the MR course. I think the only thing that was a little bit intimidating for me was, of course, there's a financial investment, and I do say investment, not an expense, right? Because we put a lot of money into a lot of other things, and frivolously spend on stuff that really isn't going to bring a return. And the materials, very well laid out, because everything's online and you have access to them at any time. So that was great. You could refer back to them. And I found myself, like, in week 8 going, I really need to go back to, module 3, because I'm hurting in this area. Like, I just knew, right? And so it was nice to have the materials that I could go back to and re-listen to a video several times. And because that's, repetition is where you're really going to cement things. But I think there's an element too of having the group of guys that are there, that, number one, I think it helps you understand that you're not in this alone, that others have similar struggles. Everybody's situation is different, and some are more challenging than others. And, you don't get into comparison mode or judging or envy or anything like that. But you do realize that, wow, there are some people that are struggling with things that may be far greater than what I'm dealing with. And and you watch them have some breakthroughs, and you're just like, oh my gosh, that was so cool. Like, I cannot believe that just happened. And you're so happy for that individual, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just, you watch individuals change through the program, and then you see the corresponding effects that it's having in their marriage and in their family. And you're seeing it live. You know, on a weekly basis, you're hearing these, success stories, and you're hearing the ups and the downs, and you're going, okay, well, if that can happen for them, it can happen for me too. There's a part of me that feels ashamed that I came in wanting something for me, and I realized that maybe it was a little bit of a selfish motive. And then I realized that it's not about me. It's about putting my eyes on her, and the rest will come along. That's really probably the biggest thing. So I think the biggest thing is the course really helps you focus on, you love your wife as Christ loved the church, and you give unconditionally without expectation. And, you look at just being grateful rather than expectant in all times. The goal is, and the hope is, that you've now made this these are permanent habits in your life, right? But it's a one-time investment for an ongoing return. I'll put it that way. It goes beyond your marriage, because it really does positively impact your entire life. It does, because you have a change of heart, you recognize some deficiencies and some things that you need to work on. And if you're really serious about changing and developing in the areas of the fruits of the Spirit, that spills over into every interaction that you have, including with your kids and with, friends and whoever that you come in contact with. It's a softening of the heart, and gets you in touch with what God really wants to do in your life.
Well, we've been married for 32 years, and I guess, when you first get married and everything is all newlyweds and everything is peaches and cream, some kids come along and life gets very busy. And what I noticed was, during our marriage, in certain aspects, especially the sexual part of it, we were kind of on different sides of the page. We didn't have that closeness. We didn't have that emotional, spiritual tie to sex. And I just felt there was something missing. So we did have relations, but they were just that. They were relations. There was not any emotion tied to it or anything like that. It was what I felt later on was, I felt it was duty sex. And that's fine for the first years. But as you get older, then you start to think or whatever, well, there's more to this. There's got to be more to this. It's kind of like, this is a Saturday night thing. It's just one more thing on your checklist. And then that kind of, it left me with a hollow feeling, and it just kind of played along. So what we ended up doing is actually went up and we saw a counselor at first. Things had changed very slightly, but not to the degree where I was feeling any kind of feedback or she was getting my meaning or anything like that. I always used to say, well, once the kids are gone, grown and gone, it's just going to be you and me, and that's when a lot of couples split, because they look at each other and they say, well, who the heck are you? Because they've led these parallel lives, but they've never intersected. So then, lo and behold, we had a little bit of a conversation, and we kind of came to the idea that, maybe we should think about going our separate ways. And after that conversation, I know she felt bad, and I felt bad also, because that's nothing that you would like to talk about. And then a few days later, she came back and she said, I've kind of discovered this program. What do you think about this? And I thought, well, okay. I thought, I'll listen to the initiation video and everything. And it had sounded very promising to me. I thought, well, this is maybe exactly what we need. And so we joined the program. And we're excited. We thought, well, this is going to be, maybe something a little bit different. And in my mind, I thought, well, this is going to change her point of view completely. Well, lo and behold, it was my point of view that got changed. Well, that was a big surprise. So, now we can openly talk about it. Yeah, we can say, I like this, I don't like this, we like this, we try this, we're having fun, we're being playful. We're newlyweds again, and I've grown closer to God. We like to pray together. You definitely have a touch of the Spirit, and it's great what you're doing for men around the world, because we never knew until we started looking. We knew there was counselors, but we never knew that there was anything like this out there. But there has been another gentleman who we're very close with, and we've talked actually quite openly about that. But he says they're in a little bit of a valley right now. When we went out to their cabin this summer, he said, you guys were all over each other. He says, I don't know what changed or whatever, but you guys were all over each other. And I told him, I said, it's the program. So I didn't mention it. And yes, I would mention it wholeheartedly to anybody I have given the chance. If somebody asked me or whatever, why are you and your wife so snuggly? Why are you and your wife, always touching each other? I'm going to say, well, this is what we found out, and this is where we went, and yeah, you're welcome. Here's the link, and away we go. So definitely, I would recommend the program.
Yes, Bella, in relation to the MR1 course that I am just finishing up, I just wanted to share with you and whoever else may eventually see this, my experience going through MR. My wife and I have been married for 29 years. And overall, thanks be to God, we have had a very good marriage. And through the years, we have invested in our marriage through reading books, listening to podcasts, attending marriage seminars, etc. Those types of things. So taking your course has just been another avenue of investing in our marriage. And I would say that this has actually been the best and the most beneficial one, and the most thorough course that I have been through. It also seems to me, as I've observed with some guys, that some men perhaps take this course so that the frequency of sexual intimacy with their wives would improve. I think maybe in some cases that's their goal. And that might very well be a byproduct of this course. But now that I have done it myself, it seems that the real focus of this course is teaching husbands to love their wives well and loving them in a way that they receive love. And that's a very important thing. So you've taught us the importance of giving our wives our complete attention when they're talking to us, and listening to them with a point of understanding what they're trying to say. You've taught us the importance of being playful in our marriage, the importance of building romantic habits, the difference between feminine and masculine sexual practices, how our wives need to feel safe, known, and wholeheartedly cherished, and how we need to be generous with our wives in serving them, giving to them, and listening to them in a attentive way. I can honestly say that I believe that all husbands can benefit from this course, whether you are on the edge of divorce or whether you have a really good marriage. If we as husbands apply these principles to our marriages, to our wives, from our hearts, our marriages are bound to improve. I also appreciate your commitment to the Word of God as well. The Bible teaches that we are to love our neighbor as ourselves, and you have pointed out that my wife is my closest neighbor, and how true that is. You've also pointed out the fact that we need to forgive others, or God will not forgive us. And that indeed is what the Bible teaches, but that is seldom, if ever, heard or said in our churches. So I appreciate your commitment to the Word of God. It is also apparent to me that you love Jesus and that you love His Word and you take it seriously. It's apparent that you you enjoy your job and you put a lot of energy into it, which is neat. And also that you understand men much better than most women do. So at any rate, I would say you're fulfilling a very important role concerning a topic that is usually not addressed in our churches. For any who are considering taking this course, I encourage you to do so. We invest in many things in life, and having a strong marriage will not only be a blessing to you and your wife in the here and now, it could influence your descendants positively for generations to come.
I guess over the years, as life has got busier with the children and all that kind of thing, intimacy kind of dropped off more and more. I felt like she felt like I was just something else she had to care for. It was easier not to expect sex than it was to be rejected. So I decided that I wouldn't initiate. I had tried that a couple times and it didn't last real long. And then about a year ago, we had a pretty big fight. And after the fight, I kind of decided to do that again. This time it's stuck for 10 months. And so after 10 months of no intimacy, and we didn't have fights during that time either. Essentially, we were roommates. She told me, she said, I still love you and I want to grow old with you. Well, I couldn't say that because I had no desire to get old. I was pretty much done with life, and I wouldn't have cared. I really wouldn't have cared if I would have just passed away. And because I felt like if this is all that life has to offer, this is all that my marriage has to offer. What's the point? And our pastor recommended that I start listening to Delight Your Marriage podcast. Wow. And it was right before the free master class. So he encouraged me to take that. And I took it. I knew that with my wife doing most of the finances in the home, if I would put this on a card, she would immediately know that. When I was trying not to let her know that I was in the course, she still at this point doesn't know. I am kind of planning on telling her tomorrow. So I went and talked to my pastor about it. He was like, well, why don't I just pay for it? Then down the road sometime, I'll ask you to pay it forward, or it's just a gift. I knew, and he knew too, that I'm the kind of person that probably put more responsibility on me than if I would have paid for it myself, because I felt like I had somebody else to be accountable to now. We started out, and one of the first things was getting into the morning routine thing. The snooze would ring and I'd roll over and hit the snooze, and that gave me 9 minutes, and I would sit there and in my head rattle off everything I was thankful for till my alarm rang again. And I got to where I would actually hit the snooze twice because I didn't have enough of time to say all my gratitudes in 9 minutes. The other thing that I did that we did in a part of the morning routine was the forgiveness part of it, which I know the first time I wrote everything down, I was shocked at how long my list got. I remember the first morning I was just sitting there just looking at this list, and I was kind of, I don't know what the right word is, horrified by the list that I had. And I was praying about it. And when I got done praying about it and looking at the list, I just took my pen and wrote, I forgive in big letters all the way across everything. I go back sometimes every now and then. I look through my journal and I go back and I look at that list. And, it's just a reminder of what forgiveness does. And so that to me was probably one of the biggest things that I felt was part of it. I think it was kind of interesting to me when I wrote that across the whole page. When I wrote that, it said, I forgive. There was, I don't know, a release or a peace that I hadn't felt in a long time. Eventually, well, one of the things you had said was that we weren't supposed to initiate. And I was like, man, I waited 10 months for her to initiate, and she still hadn't initiated. So how in the world do you think that's going to change? And eventually it did. It's not just that the frequency has picked up, but it's that the connection while during intimacy has been so much better. It doesn't affect just you. It doesn't affect just your wife. It doesn't affect just, it affects everything about your life, your marriage, your children, your relationships that you have around you. I would say it even affects my work relationships to a certain extent. I find myself looking forward to getting to know her better. I think I can say that I'm looking forward to growing old. At least I'm getting there a lot faster than I was earlier. Well, thank you so much for what you've done for me, for my family, for my marriage. And I just let you know I'll keep you and DYM in our prayers, and pray that God will continue to use you to change marriages, change lives.
Father God, if this gentleman is supposed to be in this course, let absolutely nothing hold him back. Give him a excitement, give him creativity to figure out how to get the money together to move forward with it, God. The time, help him to move around his calendar, help him to move around whatever needs to be moved around to be able to do this. If this is the right time for him, God, if this is his season to get this thing fixed by God's grace, by your grace, Lord, help him to see that if it is. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. We love you so much and would love to have you on the inside. Go to delightyourmarriage.com/invite, and the doors close Monday, April 4th at midnight Eastern Standard Time. God bless you. Bye.